Hello and welcome to this course on Java. Today we will be discussing about the different data types that are present in Java. A data type is nothing but a special keyword that is used to allocate some sufficient memory for the data. In simple words, it is a way to represent data in the main memory. In Java, we have different types of data types like fundamental data types or primitive data types, derived data types, or user-defined data types. Let us look at fundamental data types. We use data types like integer, which is int. We use character, which is char. Then we also use boolean, which takes true or false. We use float, which again is just float. And then we also use double, again, which is just double. Here we can see that these are the fundamental or primitive data types. These are the data types that have been defined in Java. These are very common in different types of programming languages. We also have other data types which are just a part of the integer. We use data types like byte, short, long, and obviously integer itself. These are the different data types that are commonly used in Java. If you use this commonly in a program, let us start a program. If you use this in our program, let's use integer. Let's say the integer age is equals to 23. Now we have defined an integer data type called age. If you print this, your age is plus obviously age, the name itself. And if you run this program, we'll see that your age is 23. This is what we have stored in our age data type or age value. The data type itself is integer. Let's try this for a different one. Let's take character. Char initial is equals to b. Characters are generally defined in single quotation marks, and we should remember in Java that every line ends with a semicolon. If we run this again, let's change it to initial and run the program. We'll see that the initial is b. Always remember that a character can only take a single value. So if we define something like this, then we are obviously going to get a error. It says invalid character constant. This means that we cannot give multiple characters for the character itself. We can only use one single character. Then if we see float, let's say price is equals to 2.5. And I want you to remember this very closely. Float is generally used to represent decimal values, obviously. And float is generally, the difference between float and double is that float is used to represent up to a certain point after the decimal, say 6 points. Double is larger than that. We can represent more values after the decimal for double. And also one important thing to remember for float is, let's check this. We see that there is a type mismatch. We cannot convert from double to float. What type mismatch means that the given value right now, it is a double. Because in Java, every decimal value that we define is a double by default. So to ensure that the given value is actually a float, we should use f. The letter f makes sure that we have defined this value as a float. So if you run the program now, we'll see that it works. That is because every time we define a float, we should remember that we should also define it with a letter f. The letter f tells the program that the given value is a float and not a double. And if we take double, next double price, price 2 is equals to 2.56. For the same thing, we're doing this. Let us try to run the program. We get 2.56. And for double, there is no special mention of it being a double because as I said, by default, every decimal value is a double itself. So you don't need to mention it again. The next data type would be Boolean. If you take Boolean, let's say is alive is equals to true. This is obviously a Boolean. A Boolean can only take true or false values. We have to remember that can only take true or false. So if we print this is alive, let's see, it's going to print true. That is because that is what we have defined here. And remember that true and false, the first letter is always small. So whenever you are defining it with a capital letter, it does not work because it is not the keyword that is used. We should use small letters even for false and true. Generally, we just use booleans for if clauses or checking statements. So we'll be seeing them in further classes. For now, these are the common primitive data types that we will be using in Java. See you in the next one.